man, Bill.
Okay.
And welcome back, Bill.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be back. So our title reader tonight is Phil Hahn. Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
I hope you got the list.
I did.
And our judge tonight is Charles Ginsburgh, otherwise known as Charlie. Charlie has been a very popular judge for us for, I think this is his 5th monthly competition that he's judged, so 5 years. Also, he has been involved in every end of the year judging for the last few years as well. One of the most popular in the sense that when you fill in those evaluation feedback sheets, he always comes in very high rating on that. And that's why we see him so often. So without further ado, I'll pull up the screen, which I hope you all see, and turn it over to Charlie.
All right, thank you. Let me preference and I generally do this all the time, but I don't expect all of you to agree with me. Frankly, when I'm sitting in your chair and it's my images that are being looked at by a judge, I don't always agree with the judge, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. I hope, even though you may not agree, I hope you'll understand why it is I'm saying what I am. And towards the end, at the end of the program, if you want to have any comments or questions or want to make disagree with something I said, that's great. I got no problem with that. I think the fun part is the discussion we have afterwards. It's subjective. So, take what I say with a grain of salt. Keep to your own guns as to what you feel your vision is and what you want to do, and enjoy the evening.
Okay. We have the creative intermediate 4 images. Over Nagasawa Lake.
Okay. And I often make this preference as well. In creative, there's generally speaking 3 types of images we often see in this division. One is reality seen in an entirely different way. And the second is reality augmented some way. And that's what this is a good example of. And finally, then the third category tends to be images that have been combined to tell an alternate narrative. And that's where you see a lot of composite images. And so here's that second image. It's reality, but then it's augmented in a creative way to give us a different feel. And I like some things here. I like the fact that you can still tell what's going on. And in creative, that's important. You got to give either the image itself or the title needs to give me some sort of indication of what's happening. Else I spend all my time trying to figure out, and I stop looking at the image as an image. So here, I can immediately determine that I see the geese there. The title tells me it's over a lake. So now I have a fundamental understanding of what it is, where it comes from. And now I can sit back and enjoy your selection of color and how you've used that and how you use tones to set the image here. And so there's a lot of good things with here, especially notice how those geese have a nice clean background behind them, or fairly clean. If they were buried in the clutter you see below there, it would be a lot more difficult. So we still get a nice vision of the image, and yet we have some interesting colors and color combinations, complementary colors we're seeing here that make the whole image work pretty well. A lot of creativity here, and I'm enjoying looking at it. Thank you.
Rust palette.
So this is like that first version here. Here's reality, but maybe you haven't seen it this way before. And so what we're looking at is a old hazardous label. This is actually 1075 is the code for hazardous code for flammable liquids. And so this is on some sort of tank that I suspect that, is rusted quite a bit, and you're really highlighting the wonderful textures and colors of the rust. But once again, you still gave me enough in this image for me to know pretty much what I'm looking at. So instead of trying to figure it out, now I can just sit and enjoy it and enjoy the different textures, the distribution of the different type of textures throughout the image, the colors, all these wonderful things. And I think you did a wonderful job in both seeing this and giving it to us. I think it's a very effective presentation. You actually added that little very thick border all the way around, which in this presentation it's not so obvious. But if this was a lighter background, that may help to really focus the scene. Thank you.
Trapped in a Renaissance painting.
Yeah. So here we almost have the trouble an issue, and in some ways I might ask myself the question, well, this is a wonderful image of this painting. Where's the creative part? And that sometimes is a trap with with this category. Sometimes you can be so good at creating it that you can't tell it was artificially made or converted into a different form, and the creativity of it isn't as evident as it might be. And I think you give us you tell us it's a Renaissance painting. We get that nice feeling for that. You have a lot of that texturization, that softness through it. But it's done so well, you almost are not quite sure if this really was a Renaissance painting this is an image of, or it was created in the likeness of a Renaissance painting. And so that's one of the things that sometimes in creativity happens here. I mean, the image itself is great. I love that. I love the shadowing. I love the fact you see that eye that's barely picking out there. Some real reminiscent attributes that you often see in Renaissance paintings. The pose, all those things work very, very nicely. So great image. Thank you.
Ouch.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a little bit on the over the top side, and again, this is that second category. This is reality augmented, and but there's an edginess to it. There's a lot of there's a lot of contrasting things. There's a busy background. There's a foreground. There's that posterization type of treatment that's been done there. So the whole overlook just has this tenor and feel to it, and it works. It's really clear that this gives me that kind of feeling for it, and it's been nicely communicated. For most of the place, I can sort of figure out where what is. There's a lot of different things going down there. Initially, when I looked at it, I thought maybe the guy was holding someone down as a second person was doing the tattooing. Now I think he's just doing it on his leg as he's sitting there. And so, yeah, it's not quite as easy to see exactly what's going on, but that's okay because the tenor and the edginess it really comes across in seeing that. So in that aspect, I think you've really given us a successful presentation. Nice. Thank you.
Creative advance, 3 images. Let her rip.
Yeah. Okay. Here we got reality happening and not quite sure exactly what's going on. Is he really on something where there's a big fan there, or is that a bike wheel that you superimpose and he's crawling on the bike wheel? Not real sure. So I'm sort of mystified a little bit at what's going on, but it gets me looking at it and thinking about it. The presentation is great. If in fact that is a bike spoke wheel and that man was really hanging off of something different and you superimpose that back on, that'd be one interesting thing that sort of fits together. If so, you did a heck of a good job because I can see through the wheel the things that may in fact actually be back there. If that's just something that's, it's a fan type of thing or something that just gives me an interesting view, it's another way of looking at it. At least you had me looking at it and wondering, and that gets the creative juice going. Thank you.
Take me for a spin, she said.
All right. So, yeah, nice image of this flower. You got a blur on there. Either you took it softly like that or you added that post-processing. You have that image, this center part that I think was really critical to put because that's really sort of clarifies in my mind that, yeah, it is really a flower I'm looking at. Take me for a spin, she said. That at one point that did get me wondering who she was and where is she in this image. The fact that you have sort of this blurred idea and you got a feeling that at least part of it has a spinning type of motif to it, which I think the reds and the greens on the outside definitely show. Then that part makes sense, but I still don't know who the she is. It's a little esoteric. Perhaps that's a quote you know from a popular work, and you know it is the maker, but as the viewer, there's that little bit of mystery. Aside from that, there's a lot of simplicity and interest to this. And I like the fact that the combination of the blurred outside, yet the fairly sharp internal part works together. So it's a nice way of pulling all that together. Thank you.
Creative advanced cascade of light.
Okay, yeah. So here we put, I suspect this was a time exposure rather than an ICM or intentional camera movement. Although it might be the other, but regardless of how you did that, you've taken reality and now you're showing it to me in a different way and in a creative way that adds a whole new feeling to the thing going around. Whether this is at an arcade or something, it doesn't matter. I'm just enjoying now that I have this definite tree-like feeling or a mountain type of feeling with the different layers of coloring, the center that's so much different, and consistent flow and lots of replication going throughout there. And I think that all works really, really nicely here. Um, I would probably have been tempted to probably try to emphasize that middle just a little bit more. And I might have done that by maybe doing a little vignetting, dark vignetting around the outside. I don't think you really need my eye being pulled all the way to the edge there. I think darkening that would focus me in the middle, and I get even more of a feeling of flow. But that's a minor point. So nice job. Thank you.
Creative masters, 2 images. Steampunk lady.
Yeah. Neat. Lots of good things here. Steampunk is, has that combination of a lot of really detail and hyper realistic versus a type of dress and a type of affect that you see there. And so you've got the overlay on the top of the gears and such, the flywheels, parts of bikes, whatever that is, the edginess of that, the person in there with the top hat and the dress they have there, some of the texturization, and then the background, which again has a lot of texturization, all together blends together very nicely to give an overall feel for this. So I think it's an excellent job of melding these things together and using the texture throughout the whole image to give me this feeling. Wouldn't have changed anything here. I think he did a great job. Thank you.
Look what I have.
Yeah, so this is fun. I mean, you just really did some juxtaposition of different elements, and the fact that the elements are emerging from the black, and so you only see parts of it emerging from the dark, and only certain parts. Just really nicely done. I love the scale that you succeeded. The scale of the hand versus the scale of the face, and then the kid on top of that, and his popsicle scale. I think you just got a fun message here, and to me this is the essence of the creative category, to being able to pull things together like this and still enjoy it as a whole. Great job. Thank you.
Journalism intermediate, 4 images. Top-down tree removal, 1 of 4. When felling a tree could endanger nearby property, professionals employ an alternative method to cut the tree into manageable pieces from the top down. Top-down tree removal, 2 of 4. Branches are removed and lowered to the ground by a rope slung over a higher branch. The climber always secures himself with redundant ropes before making each cut. 3 of 4. The climber then cuts the trunk into segments that become increasingly dangerous as the tree is shortened. A rope tied around the top is tension to direct the fall. 4 of 4. Machinery takes away the larger pieces. A skilled Atlas team took down this 110-foot Douglas fir without any piece dropping or rolling outside a 12-foot radius.
Okay. I think as a sequence, this is great. Notice you start from the global, the backing, and each image you get a little bit more focus on the activities going on. So across the 4 images, we get pulled into the scene. The combination of all these are great to telling a story. Pictorially, each image tells a nice story, and you were even able to put little bits of unique pieces of information throughout all 4 here. For an example here, why does he always secure himself with redundant rope before he can make cuts? In case for by accidentally he cuts the rope with his saw. That's one of the reasons why they're redundant ropes. So just lots of things here that are really showing the progress of the event, informs us a little bit, and gives us a nice feeling for the finally end where we have a conclusion. So nice job. I like what you got here. I think each individual image has its place in there. I think the combination is a great sequence. Thank you.
Antique Fair, 1 of 3. The 38th annual Petaluma Antique Fair was held on Sunday, April 30th in Petaluma's historic downtown. 2 of 3. Sponsored by the Petaluma Downtown Association, the fair attracts over 200 dealers and thousands of shoppers from around the bay. 3. The event is a great opportunity to browse the stalls and purchase some treasures.
Okay, so again, the sequence all tells a story, shows what's going on. Again, your first image is global, it's spaced back against, and the next 2 images you get closer and closer into the actual event. I don't know if the last 2 have that much distinction between them. The concept of being able to buy things at the stall are shown either way. Here you get a little bit more personal on a before and after type of thing, so I guess that works. But you have this nice sequence of the story evolving. Pictorially, I think each image is fine. There's sufficient to tell the story. There's enough focus on each individual image to understand and see very easily the story being told. So nice job with the series. Thank you.
Powwow, 1 of 4. As many as 30 tribes and nations from across the country were represented at the second Indigenous Peoples Gathering held at the Santa Rosa Fairgrounds on May 20th and 21st, 2023. 2 of 4. Many elders were in attendance, teaching traditions and displaying costumes. 3. Powwows like this are an opportunity to pass tribal customs on to younger generations. 4. Even the littlest were included.
Yeah. Okay. So, initially I thought this was all going to be all about the people in the native dress and their tribal dances, but in fact, this series and the story is all about the transfer, is the communication of these customs across generations. So here you have a global again, a global image showing a lot of different people and the environments around. Next image is the eldest. Next image, younger children, and finally the end image, the youngest. So you have a progression of age that really says that transferring the things that you're seeing, the customs that are being shown here to the younger people are all part of this event. That's a very subtle story that I think you very successfully told here. And I think each image is essential to telling that story. Thank you.
Coso Art, 1 of 4. Coso Range near Ridgecrest, California has the largest collection of petroglyphs in the Western Hemisphere, with over 100,000 works. The most common are of bighorns and humanoid figures. 2 of 4. Archaeologists believe some of the art to be over 10,000 years old. Depicted here are bighorn sheep, humanoid figures, and atlatls, a weapon which preceded the bow and arrow. 3. The hunters successfully land their arrows. One of the rams looks back at the hunter. A deer can be seen at the bottom. Some believe these people to be ancestors of the Shoshones. 4. Sometimes the arrows are pointed at each other.
Okay, so the question you have here is the story of the number of petroglyphs, the fact that the petroglyphs are here, or about the petroglyphs themselves. And that message is sort of gets blurred a little bit. Here, taken as a whole, you're showing me a lot of different petroglyphs. In this description here, you're telling me that there, over 100,000 works in this site. So you have this image that tells some petroglyphs. You show me some more. I don't know how detailed it is that you understand the nature of each petroglyph and the differences there. Yes, they're there, but the images don't show them tremendously well. If you really wanted to show the difference between the weapons used or the directions things are there, perhaps you would need to focus on and make them a little bit more prevalent. So I don't know. To me, I lose a little bit of the story in terms of where you were trying to go with that. And when you do have things like here, they're there, but it is rather difficult to see it. And that's just a challenge of the site. And so, yeah, you got to think about how you're going to say what you're going to say and whether they show here. Yep, we got an interesting there. And I think that's an interesting thing to talk about the relationship of the petroglyphs. But now we're adding so much more into the story. I don't know if I get as good a feeling as the story as a whole. Thank you.
Journalism Advanced, 2 images. Saving a species, 1 of 4. The number of African penguins has plummeted over 95% in the last 100 years. Monterey Bay Aquarium is part of a worldwide project to preserve their genetic diversity. 2 of 4. Males carry stones to the openings high on the rocky wall of the enclosure to help construct nests. 3. Sometimes the stone slips out of his beak and he must descend and start over again. 4. The breeding pair, boulders and walrus, are the most experienced foster parents at MBA and raised the most recent chick, biological parents Amigo and Elizabeth.
Yeah, okay. So wonderful, wonderful story you're showing. It's not just about the penguins, it's about some of their behaviors. And here you just have the pair. The next image, you show us an activity involved in the building of the nests, sort of a humorous next point that, it doesn't always work. And there's some perseverance and effort that's needed. In the final image, you do a nice job of giving me the results of a lot of their actions. So there, the storytelling flows very nicely. And I think each of the images has a place in that story. Pictorially, I think the images do nicely. It's very easy to see the most important elements and understand the story. And it also hangs together nicely. Don't know if I have any suggestions for improvement. I think you did a good job here. Thank you.
Cars, 1 of 4. In celebration of scenes in the famous movie American Graffiti being filmed in Petaluma in the early 70s, the town holds a classic car show each year in May. 2 of 4. About 1,000 classic cars participate in the event, coming from near and far. They all line up at the start to make their grand entrance along Petaluma's main downtown streets. 3. Drivers then cruise a couple of streets as they head for a spot to park. This allows spectators to stay in one spot and watch each one of them drive by. 4. Once parked, many participants enthusiastically stand by their showpieces and engage with people that are interested in learning more about the vehicle or just swap stories.
Okay. So this is there's a combination of things going on with this story. It's both about the event and the cars, but in the event here, you again did a nice job starting global, giving me a lot of perspective. You see the cars, you see the environment, you see the people, get a good feeling for the setting. Next, now you're focused. Next image. Now we're focusing on the cars, and I like your perspective. Good. The place where you stood really shows them going off in the distance, and the clarity I think is great. Then you actually have this panning shot. Boy, those are not easy to do. So kudos for that. You managed to get a lot of the cars sharp, not all of it, but enough that you understand where the car is there. The driver shows up nicely, and yet you have that blur going on. So you really focus on the story, and then finally you finish up, but not with the cars themselves, with the owners in the store and the people. And so that's a nice progression to make in telling the story about the event, the location, the cars, the action, and the people. And I think that progression is nicely shown here. Thank you.
Masters, 3 images. Severe storms damaged a historic cement ship and pier at Seacliff State Park. The SS Palo Alto was built in the World War I era in Oakland. Hashtag climate change Aptos, California, February 2023.
Wow. This has some personal feelings. All throughout my childhood, growing up in Sacramento, we used to come to Aptos Beach as our weekly vacation each year. And so as a kid, I used to grow up running up and down that beach and going out down that pier to that cement ship. So here are some of my, it's all gone now. And so it's just fun though to recollect on that. And that's my own personal take on this. The image itself is a nice job, and not only showing us the beach and the pier, but some of the challenges of the pier, and some of the woodwork seems to be dropping down. That stand there is filtered. The cement ship is completely in pieces, and yet in the foreground you'll have all that driftwood and clutter that comes from that as well. So as a single image, there's a lot of different things being told in different elements of this image, and I think all together it comes about really nicely. um, you know do you need quite as much on the bottom? You could probably bring that up a little bit more to get rid of some of the driftwood, which might add a little bit more balance to the image and still tell the story. But that's somewhat of a maker's choice here. Thank you.
Members of 1010 Taiko at Matsuri, a Japanese art festival in Juliet Park, Santa Rosa, May 2023.
Okay, I agree. Another, a peak of action type of shot. Not only did you get the person sharply in the foreground and, mid strike there, but that background person, both mid strike there and positioned so nicely, all work together, great. You just couldn't have planned it any better than that. So excellent, but excellent choice there. Good positioning, good forethought going into it. Um, we get a feeling for their native dress, you get a feeling for their involvement in what they're doing, and your title tells me a lot about the when, where, and why. So I think all that works together. You know, the only thing I find is a little distracting is the bars of the railing there. And no, you can't get rid of them. I might have played around a little bit with maybe darkening it, but perhaps you did and decided that was more distracting than aiding in terms of that. So just a couple things to think about. But I love the story, and I love how you get these the faces, the people, and the costumes all mid-action. Thank you.
Pilgrims live in the packed streets in the holy city of Lalibela during crowded Christmas holiday festivities, Ethiopia.
Okay. Story's okay. I don't really know why they're there, why they're living in the streets, but you're showing me that they are and they're there. You tell me when, not exactly, but enough. Christmas holidays, festivities, what, where, when, why, and how. We're pretty much there. A little bit more detail of why the the are these here because there's no accommodations for all the pilgrims, and so they're forced to sleep in the streets. I think there's a little bit more to this story of the why that might be included. You're definitely showing what they're doing, but why they're doing it might be something that you still might have some characters there you might be able to integrate in the title. But aside from that, great story. I love the way you got them peeking out of their coverings and their headwear. I think it's all very effective in terms of pictorially showing the story. Thank you.
Nature, intermediate, 2 images. Electus ligatus is a species of sweat bee that builds its nests underground. They are social nesters with one queen normally establishing the nest and worker bees supporting the colony.
Okay. Pictorially, great image. We got the bee very clearly. We show them on some natural activities in a natural environment. Uh, your your um, your depth of field is great. The bee and the head of the flower are very sharp enough to tell the story, and then it blurs out in the end, which gives me a little context, but doesn't compete with the actual image. The title, I think, is a little bit wordy here. You're telling me about that they're social nesters with one queen normally establishing the nest, but that's not. You're giving me information that's not shown in the image, so there's superfluous information there. You really want your title to describe the activity you see in the image and to support what is in the image. And here we've gone out a little bit further and given us extraneous information that truly isn't related to what is contained within the image. Something to think about, especially on the upper levels in the nature category. Thank you.
A great horned owl, Bubo virginianus, basks in the afternoon sun, confident that its camouflage will not draw any attention.
Yeah, now there, that's, I love that. I love the information of the camouflage and that won't draw attention because when you look at this image, it's hard to figure out where the bird stops and the trunk of the tree starts. And you just really, instead of battling with that pictorially, you've incorporated that concept into your story. And so I think that all works very nicely. Great image of the owl itself, as sharp as it needs to be, enough for me to understand that. But the story really is the camouflage and how it blends together, and yet you're still able to show this in this owl in its native environment. Thank you.
Nature Advanced, seven images. A white-backed vulture swoops in to steal the remains of a carcass from a black-backed jackal. Competition between the two species for the same meal can result in fierce battles. Masai Mara, Kenya.
Yeah, good, excellent, fun, great shot. It's great to have the vulture coming in. I love that additional vulture sitting in the lower left, and then you have the jackal there, and it really looks like the jackal's ready to, is either on or just about ready to move to get away from the bird. And so you're really showing me the relationship of these two animals and the competition that's occurring. Pictorially, great composition. Look at that vulture. We have all the wingtips there, nice extension, lots of detail, so I can really enjoy the detail associated with the bird and the detail associated with the jackal. Good depth of field. You don't have a lot of competing stuff in the background there. So all in all, just a very nice story. I wouldn't change anything. Good job.
Erosion on a grand scale. 2 billion years of Earth's geological history has been exposed as the Colorado River cuts through layers of the uplifting Colorado Plateau over the past 5 to 6 million years.
Yeah. Okay. So showing geographic or different effects on rocks, different formations is appropriate for nature. Um, there is a story to be told, and you're telling me the story. You did a nice job of both showing me the different striations in the rock as well as some of the pathways that have been cut along there. So all those elements are nicely shown in this image. You have a really great, pictorially, a really great representation of a foreground, midground, and background with interest all throughout and different layered effects. All in all, just a neat image with a lot of different meat to the image, yet still a lot of detail supporting your story. Thank you.
Snow geese will take off by the thousands from resting spots if spooked, often in numbers so great they create a screen of birds. They will usually circle around and return to the same spot if safe.
Yeah. So just a great image here. You really shows the mass of bird life and the mass of that flock that is so dense and so active, you can't pick out any one at all. And that's one of the adaptation thing behaviors that is developed over the years. This is a mode of protection. If they all take off at the same time, predators have a hard time picking any one individual to go after. And this is really shown very well in this image. Now, you have one or two birds in the bottom that you can easily determine, and that's great. But the real gut feeling here, the real take-home image is all the mass of that. I would wonder if perhaps commenting that the massive bird is a survival technique in making it difficult for predators to pick an individual one. That may have been some interesting information to add in the title, since your image is so effective at showing just that one point. Something to think about. Thank you.
A great egret, Ardea alba, identified by its black feet and yellow bill, carries a single piece of nesting material in its bill.
Yeah. So interesting nature image here. You're showing the behavior. I mean, pictorially, your exposure and the sharpness of the bird is great, and that's not an easy feat with the egrets. But you've done a really nice job there. We get a little bit of blur on the tip and around the neck here, giving me an indication of motion, and that works real well. Unfortunately, we don't have the head, we don't have the eyes, we don't have the face, and that diminishes the impact of showing this bird as as a representation of this creature. And so it is appropriate for nature to have that here, but those elements, yes, they're pictorially, but they go a long way towards showing off the main character in the image, and we sort of lose a little bit of that here, which I think diminishes its impact and perhaps its quality as a nature shot. Thank you.
The neotropic cormorant, Nanopterum brasilianum, with a prize catch for lunch, a catfish from San Lorenzo River in Brazil's Pantanal.
Yeah. I don't know what's portrayed better, the fish that's being caught or the bird itself. Tough exposure here. You have some real bright spots here. I don't know if that can be probably can't be dealt with tremendously. You can't clone it away, and it's hard when those bright spots here. Sometimes you have to live with what you get with nature shots. But just a wonderful interaction of both the fish and the bird. The bird itself is as sharp as it needs to be. Wonderful coloration of that eye, and all the detail of the fish. The spotted nature, all the scales, the fins stuck out there is really nice. So this is a really exceptional shot in showing those two up. So good job. I wonder how many thousands of images you had to go through to get this one, and probably this event you probably captured about 30 of them as you just mash down the button and let the burst mode go to town, finding just the right shot. But you know what? That's what it takes to get these kind of images. Nice job. Thank you.
Lioness walking in a riverbed, Kruger National Park, South Africa.
Okay, so he is walking there. There's not a lot of real activity you can see. Yeah, some of the paws are mid-stride and a little blurry, so indication of some sort of motion. We don't got a lot of detail in the animal itself, although here you do have the full animal from the nose all the way down to the tip of the tail. So you did a nice job there. Nicely portrayed against the background here, and even where the paws are, we can still easily see it. But yeah, I don't know. Seems as that not quite as sharp as it might be. And I would wonder, adding a little bit more sharpness on the animal might bring out just a little bit more of the detail. Thank you.
Pandemonium breaks out as Cape buffalo run to escape hunting lions unseen. Masai Mara, Kenya.
Yeah, great. No, when I first saw this, I immediately thought of action. And then I read the title. I realized that, yes, there is action going on there. And I try to figure out why. And I just think it's the different stances of the different heads, the fact that one of the four feet in the front of the middle animal is in midair. So you've really caught some different things here. It's said that these buffalo are some of the most dangerous creatures out there. More people get injured and died from these guys than any of the other animals. And here, in their herd behavior of sticking together, all moving out as a group, and are some of its survival mechanisms. So here you've told me that's what's going on here, and you're giving me a good indication of this. I have stride there. So good job. It's as sharp as it needs to be. I don't mind the fact that I see parts of animals on either side, because it's the herd that really is the subject. Thank you.
Nature Masters, 3 images. Cormorant takeoff, 1 of 4. Low buoyancy enables cormorants to easily swim underwater, but sitting so low in the water makes the flight takeoff more difficult. 2 of 4. First, an energetic flying lunge out of the water. 3, followed by several hops with both feet striking the water in unison. 4, and finally, the cormorant is airborne. Double-crested cormorant, Nanopterum auritum, Spring Lake, Santa Rosa.
Okay. I've seen a lot of shots with cormorants in the past, but I don't think I've ever seen a series that describes this one issue of its buoyancy versus the difficulty of the flight. And I think your series does a really good job here. All of these images are excellent. This one is a great just portrait shot, which is just wonderful with the color and the detail. Next, great what makes this shot is the divot in the water as he's taking off, along with all the different drops there. And your title is telling me what's going on here. Yeah, the next hop there. Not only do we see both of those feet in the air about to punch in the water, but you can see where it happened before. And finally, the next shot is successfully getting there. So a nice propagation of events. Each of these images show the scene very nicely and could stand out in and of themselves in a slightly different format. So nice job. I got no solution, no suggestions for changing it. I think you did a great job at really showing me an event that most of us see, but here you're informing me as to some of the issues behind getting the flight, what he has to go through, and the significance of what we normally see. Good lesson to learn. Nice rendition of it. Thank you.
Desert lily, Hesperocallis undulata, is found on sandy flats and dunes in creosote bush scrub in the Mojave Desert.
Okay, so here we're showing some flowers in the environment. I think your depth of field is excellent in terms of taking this image. The flower and the bulbs behind it are all nice and sharp, and then you have that real softness in the background, so it shows up really nicely. It is an appropriate nature shot, but it is not as compelling as many others. We don't often in nature action shots or shots of actual behavior that's actively going on there tend to do better. They're a little bit more compelling. This image doesn't have any of those, but it is a wonderful portrait shot of this blend, of this bud. It might do just as well in portraiture, not portraitures, in pictorial as well. If you do put this in pictorial, I would definitely try to go out a little bit. We're a little bit tight on the top, a little bit tight on the edge, but that's for portrait. I'm sorry, for your it's not for the nature. In the nature story, this is fine in terms of what is pictorially being demonstrated. Thank you.
Greater flamingo, Phenocopterus roseus, inhabit the hypersalinic dunes of the Galapagos Islands. Their large webbed feet enable them to run on water to gain speed before lifting into the sky.
Okay, good. Interesting shot here. Nice action going on. I think it's important. I love your the composition and your crop. Yeah, is he running off the edge of the page? Yeah, he is. But the action is where he is as much, and the story is much about where he was than where he's going. And so you definitely took the time to show us that splash ahead of time, that little bit of a trail of disrupted of the water between where the bird is now and where he was when it splashed. And when you get to the bird, then you have that wonderful reflection as well. So you're giving me this nice view of this animal involved in this natural behavior in a native environment. Is the bird as sharp as it could be? Not really. Especially look at the eyes and the beak. A little bit difficulty to see there. And I don't know if just a little bit of sharpening or maybe darkening that eye a little bit might bring that out. These are the kind of things that even in a shot like that, you still want to see in some of the top flight nature images. Thank you.
I think our 5 minutes is up.
Okay.
And
Intermediate, 5 images. A walk in the redwoods.
Okay, this is a lot of interesting stuff here. And I'm still seeing things in this image. Great. I love the total image in its totality. You've really emphasized the height of the trees and the redwoods in the format you've chosen there. But with the two kids walking through, I just think is great. Gives them a sense of scale. It gives us a little a little difference between young and old. And for some reason, I didn't notice it before, but there's that owl is sitting right there. I wonder if that was added or after the fact, but that's okay. I don't care either way. It's just a fun story. And so there's a lot of neat stuff here. The storytelling is there. It is a nice piece of artistic storytelling. I think it's just done very nicely. Have no suggestions for improvement. I think you did a great job. Thank you.
Cotton candy vendor, Jaisalmer, India.
Okay. Again, sort of a juxtaposition of old versus new or serious versus superfluous with the candy. Yeah, it's his profession. That works out fine. I would have liked to seen the man being a little bit sharper. He's a little on the soft side, and maybe a little bit more contrast in that cotton candy, if possible. It's such a large part of the element, yet aside from the edges of the bags, there's not a lot of detail there. Yet there's a lot of detail in the rock around there and on him. So to balance that a little bit, I would have tried to strive for maybe getting rid of a little of the hot spots and add a little micro contrast into that cotton candy and maybe sharpen the man up just a little bit. You're going to look right at his face, and I'm still seeing to be just a tad sharp. But aside from that, good composition. I love that leading line of the stick from his hand all the way up to the candy, and a good relative positioning of all the main elements. Thank you.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, so this one took me some time to figure out, and I'm guessing that the synchronous event is simultaneously the new and the older cars on this place here, and I think in that aspect that's sort of interesting. So you have that old Falcon. Falcon, remember at that time in the 50s when we all had station wagons. And so there's an example there. That on the bridge and with a little bit of technology, new versus old, established versus brand new. A lot of different things going on here. Probably taken from the car, I hope, and not someone trying to stand in the middle of it. So good image, a lot of fun stuff, and well done. Thank you.
The party bus.
Now, yeah, this not only do you have this interesting colored bus that's painted with some bright and garish colors, but you have all these kids all doing interesting things and in different poses. And not only that, but you finally have the one on the right there is looking at the cell phone. Man, if that isn't kids, that's when kids partying. And so I think it all works together. If the kids, the stories of the different kids in the different places, the bus itself, all together, it just hangs together really nicely and it's sort of fun. When I read this and started looking at it, I just got a smile on my face. Thank you.
Life in balance.
Yeah. So this is interesting. We have all the different levels of plants that we see here, but none are really sharp or distinct. The sharpest part, besides the wooden structure there, the metal structure that's in the middle of the image, the sharpest part is that the butterfly, and he's nice and sharp and nicely defined, and it doesn't have a lot of competing background. But everything else around it, the other plants, which is part of the balance of the life, besides just the butterfly, is a soft side there. There's not a depth of field, and so I lose some of the impetus. Here, I think you really would try this with a little bit more depth of field in the foreground to get a little bit more detail on the greenery supporting the butterfly. But I like what you did in terms of what's behind the butterfly, both in the land with the plants and in the wooden fence there or the metal structure there as well. Thank you.
Pictorial Advanced 10 images. First light on the first snow, Mono Lake, California.
Nice, nice. Very nice. Wonderful detail in terms of the structures there. You get the snow there. Excuse me. Interesting first light, which I think is just wonderful. Nice capture there. Light in the background, but then you have that haze or that low hanging fog or the clouds there. I think it's all, nice juxtaposition of tones and juxtaposition of textures. You have the sharp texture of the rocks there and the smoother texture of the snow and of the atmospheric elements behind there. A lot of neat stuff here. I'm enjoying, we see just enough of the water to know it's there, but we still have a sense of depth going on as well. All that's very good stuff. Thank you.
Photobomb.
Wow. I mean, either this was with a zoom lens and it was really coming out there, or you just remember the right or maybe the wrong place at the right time. But good capture of that. The bird itself with the beak and the eyes is sharp. The beak isn't quite as sharp, but the eye is very nicely sharp, and I think that's critical. The rest of it, I can afford to see a little bit less, or a little bit of blur, because I get a sense of motion. The feet and the back tail are nicely sharp as well. So I don't mind the fact that the very area closest to me is a little blur because the eye is there to take the show. And then, all the environment around there just really supports the whole thing. Sort of gives me a little bit of feeling of Alfred Hitchcock and the birds, and getting that feeling of being so intimate with the birds and the birds coming at you, and this gives me just that feeling. So good job. Thank you.
Weathered rock at Salt Point State Park, Sonoma County, California.
Yeah, okay. So we got some interesting rock formations, some interesting lighting, gives you some shadows versus bright parts, different shapes. It's almost an abstract. You do tell me it's a weathered rock formation, so I'm no longer guessing what it is, and I'm enjoying the shot here. Their shadows many times end up with a blue tinge, and I don't know if that blue was added or was natural. And so you may take this image and play a little bit with how much blue do you want to be there. Now the blue and the gold colors we're seeing here are nice complementary colors. And so giving this as a more abstract type of shape, maybe that's fine. I think in reality, there probably wasn't quite as much blue there, but it's all up to the maker to decide how much they want to show. Thank you.
Huntington Gardens.
Yeah. Okay, so here we had, an image shot taken with a wide angle lens. So you can get very, very close to it and still get a lot of stuff on the edges there. It does give us this side of bowed perspective. And I think that works out okay in this case, especially in what you're showing us. Unfortunately, I do feel that the background, not of all the flower garden behind the first rank of flowers we're looking at and before the trees is really, really busy. And there's even behind the plants in the greenery, there's so much going on that I think it's competing a little bit with your main subject. I don't know how you would, in this case, if you could get around that or not. There is some selective ways you can maybe select certain areas and blur and darken it a little bit, maybe to bring out your forefront a little bit more. But there's a lot of background in here, and consequently, you lose a lot of impact with your flowers, even though they're as big as they are due to your use of lens and getting so close. But still, the background is competing so much with the foreground that I think it loses a lot of impact. Thank you.
Primary colors, beach huts.
Yeah, boy, this is could be almost a painting. Not only do we have the wonderful the lines and the colors and the simplicity of the structures themselves, but then you got those clouds of the sky there that all look so puffy, and so it's almost like it could be a a painting as such, because all these elements are nicely there, and it has a cleanliness to it. I think all that works really nicely. I'm wondering if you need quite as much sky. If you came down to the sky maybe 10% or so, that might that might diminish the effect of the clouds just in the sky a little bit, which might draw a little more interest to the structure and maybe give a little bit more balance. Not much, some, uh, but something to think about. It's a possibility of a way to go with this image. Thank you.
Nighttime visitors to a watering hole.
Great. Great image. I love the composition. I love the color, the clarity of the animal, the reflections you see there, the fact that we see some water buffalo in the background, but you don't have a lot of stuff in the background. So now he's very, very clean in his presentation. Excellent shot. Just a fun shot and very well done. I'm enjoying it. I couldn't give you a suggestion for anything better. I just like what you've given me. And I think it was well executed. Good job. Thank you.
View of Landreger Snofelnes Peninsula with tide pools and Iceland.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Fun stuff that you've managed to give me a really interesting foreground, midground, and background, and an interesting sky beyond that. We have sort of a water pathway with that arch to follow down through it, which leads us to the far end of the pool, maybe another slight pool, waterway that leads us into the far water. Can't tell, but it's conceivable. Interesting detail on the moss and the structure on the rocks. And I love that you can see some things from the water as well. I do find that reflection is a little bit on the is a little bit prominent. The reflection of the sky and the water in the foreground is a little bit if one were to use a neutral, not a polar circular polarizer, maybe that you reduce that glare some, and this is what you ended up with, or maybe you reduce a little bit more. But because that water reflection is so featureless for the most part and so prominent, that sort of sticks out a little bit. And I think using the circular polarizer may be an effect there. There may be some things one can do in Photoshop to reduce that slightly and maybe bring out a little bit more detail so it isn't quite as featureless. But there's that contrast of that clear area versus the rock, which is effective. But that to me is a pretty big element that seems to be predominant in this image. Thank you.
Young Nahinako ladies from Xingu, Brazil, traditional body paint, waiting to join the village ceremony, mourning the death of a tribe member.
Hey, excuse me for a second. I love this image, especially as a monochrome. Here the story is about the body painting and the elegant work that's done there and the tribal garb that they're doing there. And so I think, this image portrays that very nicely. Two young women, both positions slightly different. You get the hair there. We don't see much more of them. Their heads are cut off, but I think in this case, that's fine, because the story isn't about the women. The story is about their body painting and showing out parts of them that's so different from ours. So I think he did a nice job of showing that. Very simple in the aspect there, not a lot of complexity involved with this, and yet it's very effective at giving us the story. So nice job. Thank you.
Survival of the fittest in action. The stallion pursues the challenger to preserve his mating rights.
All right, so great. We got this nice sharp shot of the stallion. You see a little bit of blur in the legs there, giving us a sense of motion, and then you have the background being blurred as well. Now I sort of wonder myself if in fact that was really panning or was that done post-processing. The reason why I suspect it was done post-processing is that it wasn't done as effectively as it could have been. Take a look around the tail there. You see some areas that are a little bit sharper and definitely lighter. Those are areas that you neglected to get entirely in your selection when you selected that to do some different editing. And that's a glaring indication that in fact there was some processing done and there was areas missed. If you look carefully, especially around the hoofs there, we also have a little bit of haloing with the dark there. And initially one might say, well, that's due to the fact that they're moving, but it also could be due to some haloing due to the processing. And the fact that you didn't do it as well in that tail really sets me wondering and unfortunately diminishes the overall feel of the image. Thank you.
The midnight sun. Quite a special moment watching the sun just bounce off the horizon and start to rise without as much as dipping its toe in. West Fjords, Iceland, 2000.
Yeah, so this is as dark as it gets right there. And it's wonderful. I mean, gorgeous foreground, midground, and background. The sky is interesting reflections off the water. Have some bright spots there, but it's naturally going to be there, so it doesn't bother you. You see those bright spots there with no detail, and you just accept it because that's a good representation of the reality. Foreground's interesting. There's some interesting things there. Those rocks in the foreground diminishing inside and moving off to the bottom left corner, I think worked very effectively. You've got a mirror of that transition in the water line, and then you have some interesting sky as well. So a lot of good elements here. I sort of, you do get a little bit lost as to is the foreground or background the most important part. And I think probably the foreground is there to support what's rested there in the image. So I might de-emphasize the bottom of the foreground and maybe the very top a little bit by adding a little bit more vignette. I'll pull me more into the image and give me a little bit more dimension than what I'm already seeing. Thank you.
Pictorial Masters, 9 images. Breaking wave.
Yeah. Getting good shots of waves is so difficult. When you look at them and you see all the power and the beauty of the waves, and you take all these shots, and then you look at the shots, and they never see, at least my shots, never seem to reflect what I felt when I was there. And this is an exception. I love the sharpness of some of the aspects of the wave, around where the break has in the foreground area of the break, nice and sharp there. And then the actual curl itself is as sharp as it needs to be. We see a lot of the activity and the power and all the detail of the splashing there. Some nice, elements leading up to the wave in terms of the building mound, the angles of the white parts and foam, all gives a nice sense of the whole wave. And you actually have that bird in the upper left-hand corner as well. So all that comes together. But what really takes home the story for me is the sharpness of the wave right in front of the curl and being able to see all that. I just got a sense of the power to come and the detail within. So nice job. Thank you.
Looking up.
Hey, this image would be okay, except, but it would be hard to understand until you have the person there. Luckily, they were wearing red, or at least they do in this image. So that gives you a sense of scale. And now all of a sudden you understand the struggle, the rock climbing, the path he's taking, where he's going, a little bit of where he's been. And now that adds a whole new poignancy to the whole image. Nicely done. The exposure is great. There's wonderful lines going up and down, enough detail to understand everything you're going there. I love the fact at the very top, it's a little bit darker there. So my eyes drawn up the rocks in terms of the direction he's going, but it doesn't lead me off the page. It stops there. And when I go down and look towards the bottom there, I'm fixated on that red character there. And so I don't go down any further. Nice job and nice portrayal. Thank you.
Passageway, Anchor Watt.
Yeah. Okay. Giving this other structure, something unique, and I believe this is Taiwan. No,
Cambodia.
Cambodia, thank you. Yes, that's what I was trying to say. Great. No, but lots of interesting texture in there. This is probably not an easy shot because you're in a sort of a darkened area and you have these bright areas where the light's coming in, reminiscent of some of the things you see up at Fort Point as well. That can be a real challenge to the photographer. But I think he did a good job here. I don't mind the fact that some of the window structures are blown out. I get that sense of light coming in there. I don't need to see the detail right there. But then you have where the light translating on the rest of the image and the structures there, and it works really nicely. The fact that you have all these little statues or little I'm not quite sure what they are, but they're paced evenly and they pace throughout the whole structure gives me a sort of receding sense along with the lines that are leading in a perspective to the end. Lots of good stuff here. Nicely done. Thank you.
Tranquility.
Yeah. Okay. So, this is a real soft and dreamy type of image. Uh, Yet there's a lot of detail as well. Here it's the tree trunks that are really the main players, because they're the things you see the most. The actual blooms on the trees themselves aren't really distinct, and they sort of blend into the background. We get some feeling for where they are in the reflections that we see of those, but it really is all those tree trunks and all the different juxtapositions and angles we see there. I do like in the middle of the reflected water, the reeds coming up in their own stance. You have both the reeds and the reflections there that sort of break up that and give me a sense of depth, because I know they're in front of the other things. The background as well. I won't say it's a high key image, but it is a little on the bright side. And in some cases, it's a little difficult to make out all the blooms on the trees. I would probably have tried to, let's put it this way. I would wonder if adding a bit more contrast might bring out those blooms a little bit more without darkening the whole image. And that would be something that I would have to try. Perhaps you did as well. Thank you.
The boys are enthusiastic about powder cup football.
Yeah. Oh, these are fun shots. Not only do you have action going on, and in these type of action shots, seeing the active participant, the ball, and the faces are critical. What are sort of the most important elements in action shots like that? Faces, expressions, and gestures. Those are all critical elements that you want when you're capturing these kind of athletic events. And you got them all there. You have the action, you see the ball, you have all these faces, you have all these different expressions, you have gestures going on. And so, people are up in the air, they're bouncing up and down. You get that sense of energy. All that's there. And it does a wonderful job at just telling this story and capturing this point in time. But it's having that main character being focused, seeing the ball, the faces, expressions, and gestures are all so critical, and you got it all in this shot. But the only thing you could do is perhaps take all that background where you have those peoples and the goalposts and everything and blur that just a little bit more. In doing so, maybe darkening it, you're going to find that the action and the kids in the foreground really pop out and come forward, thereby giving you a little depth. But what I'm seeing here, the background is busy, but not as distracting as some, but still a little bit on the distracting side. Thank you.
Man at work sifting teff, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Yeah. Good job of both capturing him and capturing him against a fairly clean background, yet interesting. We have texture in the woods. We have all sorts of different shading in the painting, different states of that, different wood structures. You have the man himself doing the actual action of the sifting. I love the fact that his face, he's looking down and away. So he doesn't engage the viewer entirely, and therefore you're an observer to what's going on and you're not a participator of it, which would have been different if he was looking directly at him. So you give us that nice feeling of where he is in the environment he's in, and I think it's as sharp as it needs to be. Is it absolutely the sharpest image? No, but I don't think it needs to be in this case. Lots of neat detail here. One question: you do see that cupboard on the left, and then you have the dark, lighter area there. I probably would have been tempted to darken that whole area just a little bit to see if I can't get it so it is not competing quite as much with the pants or the sifter that the man is holding. Because that's where you want my attention to go. And you might think about darkening that just a little bit and see if you can de-emphasize it slightly. Thank you.
Lake Sonoma, foggy morning sunrise.
Good job. This type of capturing this kind of atmosphere, this kinds of this hazy effect, getting a feeling of what it's like there, the filtered light coming through there, the low-hanging clouds there, the dispersion of the low-hanging clouds as it goes up there, just really give me this wonderful feeling. The mist coming off the lake, I think, works out nice. Wonderful view of the different greenery. Your point of focus is actually fairly far into the image. You can look at the trees on the right, and you got that sharp, and then you have the greenery, which is pretty sharp. Yet the hills, which is about the same as the tree on the right, the hills on the left are a little bit on the soft side. So that's that. I would wonder a little bit about that. But aside from that, I love the overall feel this gives. And adding that bird, having that bird there, I think was a masterstroke as well. So nice job. Thank you.
Samburu, Kenya, 2023.
Okay, so you're showing me these people. And then there's some tribal dress. It's in Kenya, but I don't know much about what's going on. I think there's more you could, in artistically telling a story, which is part of what a pictorial is about. You can probably give me a little bit more information. And only because I don't have faces, I don't have gestures, I don't have action to look at. And so I just have this one view. And to me, I don't know if that's quite enough to really tell a story. Had your title said a little bit more, I'd have more to latch on to and more to understand from the image of what you're trying to tell me. But as presented here, I think it's a little bit weaker in that aspect, and something at this level I think can be done better. Thank you.
The Mesquite Sand Dunes of Death Valley, 2.
Yeah, and nice. I love the juxtaposition of living plant versus dead plants, the simplicity of the sticks versus just the sand itself. The sand has a lot of interesting texture and shadowing into it. Works out very nicely. I like the angle you pick that has the horizon on about the 1/3 part. You have a lot of sky there, but it belongs there. And there's just a hint of detail of some clouds in that sky, which is quite an improvement over whether it was just pure blue or the light blue gradient that you might see. You have the gradient there, but you have that one little bit of detail that sort of gives me a little structure to there. It is a little bit crop tight on the top. Your main character is that tree. Okay, so why not expand the canvas out, clone the blue over there, and give me just a little bit more space for that tree to exist in? These are the kind of things that at a master's level, I think that you should be able to see yourself and start to integrate into your images. Thank you.
Peak feedback from all levels, 8 images. Dia de Muertos in Alamos, Mexico, when families welcome back the souls of their deceased relatives for a brief reunion of celebration.
Okay, so here we got this image, but it's taken in such a way that there's a lot of high contrast. And there's a lot of blackness on the top and on the left-hand side, and then even the back corner there. And that's a take now. That's a type of look you could have, and I think that in this setting that sort of works. But if you take a look now on what your subjects are, the subject in the foreground with the woman, the gravesite, the different candles there, that's all very effective. But now when you go upward, you're starting to get a lot of clutter where the people are mixed into. And it gets harder and harder to try to see that. In this case here, I probably would have darkened the area directly behind those people to try to get them to stand out better, try to get a better resolution, my subject from the background. I think you could do that and not lose some of the critical aspects of this. We can also, another way of doing this is if you crop over from the left a little bit. I think in cropping over that, then maybe some of the plainness that we see in the lower left and midway on the left-hand side there, we have a lot of detail, and then all of a sudden areas where there's not a lot of detail. And so there's some areas that don't quite have the balance in this image. Cropping over a little bit, I think, might help address some of that to some extent. Thank you.
Reverend Watsatawa Spanka.
Yeah. So there's a lot of fun stuff here. You know, you have the prayer, you have the statuary there, you have the contrast between that behavior and modern day society, which is in the background there. You have the statuary there. A lot of fun stuff here. And so I think that's very effective in showing that. The suggestion I would make here, though, is can you move? I think you ought to need to move that statue significantly closer to the man. The distance between them two is still can be significant. It still can be meaningful. And that the distance between what you're praying and the man praying, there's a distance and a gap to be strived to overcome. But I don't think you need quite as much space. You could actually cut it off just in front of the statue and copy that and move it forward, still have this distance, but to get rid of a fair amount of that empty space behind. You still have enough to still leave enough that you can see the buildings behind it, because I think that's critical to your message and your vision. But that distance, I think, is larger than it needs to be and can be fairly simply addressed in some edits. Thank you.
Camouflage.
So here we have a sort of an image, of the mask and the people behind the mask. Camouflage sort of reflects the fact that that the wearer is going to blend in due to the mask, and I don't quite see that. So I don't know if the title is quite as indicative as it might be, but it's a great image of the mask, and I love the fact that you have those eyes peering out through there. I love your crop and your composition. I think that works out very nicely. That blue structure in front of it, I don't know if you had something else there and you added something. I think there's a lot you can do up there. Not add a huge amount of stuff, maybe some subtle texture, maybe some lighter color that just sort of looks like this blob of blue just sitting there. And I think that takes on a life of its own and begins to detract from the interesting mask and face as well. Thank you.
Mom's got all her goslings in a row.
What a nice job. I mean, we all see these types of shots when we're sitting there, but you got it. And I love how close you are. I love you got them close in the net there. I mean, fuzzy chicks always do great. I love that reflection in the middle there. You know, just a lot of fun stuff here. This is an image you should be proud of. I don't know if I have any suggestions for improvement. I think your composition is dead on. We see eyes on all four tricks there. That wonderful reflection, as I mentioned before, and the differences in the water texture is all just excellently done there. So excellent job. Thank you.
An artist at a coma in New Mexico.
Yeah. So here's an image where you took a photograph and then you applied some sort of treatment to give it more of a watercolor type of look. And I think it works. I think it works very nicely. And this is something that you can really be proud of. I love the feeling there. You did a good job at leaving a little bit more detail in the face than you did in the hair and the and his jersey or coat he's wearing. And that rewards you because you're always going to look at that face first. So you did a good job of making sure that was just a bit sharper, but still it's been treated as well. And so overall, you have a really good look as a artistic piece that you've transformed this photograph to give us. Nice job. Thank you.
Antics.
Yeah. Wow. Now, when you look at this image, what's the very, very first thing that popped into your head? What happened to me is on the left-hand side, that bright red just popped out. And then I began to see areas of contrast. I began to see the ant. I began to see the undulations and the flowers and such. But I realized that, I'm really being pulled to those edges, especially on the left side, because it's not a lot of detail and bright, bright, vibrant color. Here, I definitely would consider adding a little bit of a vignette here so I could maybe de-emphasize the edges more on the left than on the right. And the right, I'd still do it on the right side too, because I want to pull you more into the image, into that center part, or into that part on the mid in the image. We have those wonderful petals and details. The ant's there too, but the ant can't be as big a player as you might like because you don't have the whole ant, and you begin to lose bits and pieces of him. And that's okay from an artistic point of view, but it takes his prevalence as a main player away to some extent. So it could be afforded that he's maybe slightly included in the wash of the vignette because he'll still be there, still take on a major role, and yet you'll be moved into the image more than having the outsides of this image really pull your vision away. Aside from those things, though, vibrant image, nicely seen and nicely captured. Thank you.
Lyrical Lily.
Yeah, neat. Yeah, very soft, flowing type of image. Good use of light here. Um, you know, there's not too much overexposure. There may have been some sort of treatment done on this a little bit to give it more of an artistic feel to it. I think that works fine. I probably would have liked to seen just a little bit more lightness in that stem. He almost blends so much into the background, and having him pop just a little bit more may make the connectiveness of the actual lily bloom to the environment more evident. Um, personally, tend not to like ideas where there's elements in front of the main subjects that are blurred. That just bothers me a little bit, and but maybe in others it didn't. So if I comment on that, but I'll give you the caveat that that may be more of a personal taste than of something that might improve that. It's nice to have that depth of field. It's nice to give you that feeling of depth as you have some things in front of the others, so that works. But that always tends to get my attention and bother me a little bit. Thank you.
Tenten Taiko, 1 of 4. The 6 women who comprise Tenten Taiko prepare for their performances at the Matsuri Festival in Santa Rosa, Juilliard Park. The group has played at events since 2003. 2 of 4. They practice weekly in Petaluma. This is their first performance since 2019. Their repertoire ranges from the ancient to the modern to original compositions. 3. The first performance was called Ji Daiko. Ji Daiko is a Shinto prayer to bless the venue, the players, and the audience. It was performed in traditional Kagura costumes. 4. The second piece was called Iki, a modern composition that originated with Kaburaya Taiko Horishino. It was performed with typical happy costumes.
Okay, so we got a sequence here, and in any sequence, it's the combination of images that tell the story. Here, start out with the dressing of them in their traditional wear, and you get an idea of the complexity and the beauty of the different makeup and costumes they use. The second one shows a little bit more detail there. I don't know if this image really furthers the vision of the sequence quite as much as some of the others. The next one here is a nice performance piece. You start out broad and you give us all the people playing, and here you did a nice job of giving me a feeling of the venue it's in, and I think that works. And the final image, where you're trying to show something different, it would have been nice if we could have seen some action. If you recall, in the master's category under journalism, there were some people that you were seeing people be on drums, and you saw that they were midway in the middle of the action. Here, they're just sort of sitting and waiting. So it's more of a static image, and it doesn't quite bring your stories to the conclusion that you would have liked to seen if they were actively involved. And that's the challenge with sequences. The combination of images has to be more than the sum of the totals. And in this case, they're not quite as strong as some of the other combinations we've seen. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take another 5-minute break. And then Steve will come back with the winners.
Sounds good.
And okay, creative intermediate, 3 images. Third place, Sherry. Sherry here tonight?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much. Charlie, I really appreciate the feedback that you gave me on this image.
Tell me, what was that your image that you made it into a Renaissance look?
Yeah, it was a straight portrait and I added texture and some different textures that I shot. And she just has this classic beauty that reminded me of a Renaissance.
Yeah, I think it was very effective in doing that, but you understand why it was so well done that it wasn't evident.
Yeah.
And that's
I'll try to do worse.
Well, no, it's a challenge with creative that are done.
Yeah, I am challenged by creative. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the only trick to do there is, trapped in a Renaissance painting, maybe indicate in the title that you did the creation of the look. And now I'll understand. Oh, she made that. Isn't that cool? It's tough though. Great. I mean, great job.
Thank you.
One idea I thought of when you were talking, Charlie, about it is that if Sherry had photographed a frame and put her in a frame, it then might have translated, because I think it's pretty cool.
It's a nice photo. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
I'd say you're very successful in what you tried to do here.
Thank you.
Very nice. Congratulations. Second place, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Charlie, for telling me what the 1075 means. I did not know that. I just like the colors and the textures of this so much. So
yeah,
but now I could take it in a different direction now.
Well, I'm a scientist, and so that kind of stuff has meaning for me.
Congratulations. First place, Ellen.
well, thank you. When I put this in, I thought Charlie was either gonna love it or hate it. So I'm glad you liked it. But this was a composite of 2 photos. I was at the Tattoos and Blues Festival, and I got one of the tattooist on the left and the subject where the expression was flat, and then I got another one with this great expression, but there was a man standing on the whole entire left side. So I put them together, and Photoshop played with it, and I had to do something because I could never get the 2 to go together by themselves. But yeah, it's busy. That's what I was thinking. People think it'd be too busy.
There's sort of an edgy,
fun with it.
there's sort of an edginess to it that I think really fits. So otherwise I might say, yeah, the background was busy and competing with it, but given your treatment and how you did that, I think it all fits together nicely. Good job.
Thank you.
Nice image.
Congratulations. Creative Advanced, 3 images, 3rd place. Phil.
This is my brother-in-law. We were out on a little field trip, and this was a huge iron wheel that was stationary, and I liked the image, so I wanted to create some motion. I did a couple of overlaid motion blurred versions of the wheel, and maxed it out to make it look like it was moving.
Great. You got a
Nice.
fun family.
He's a character.
Congratulations. 2nd place. Ronnie.
Mm. I think she's still traveling. Huh? Yep.
Back from Europe yet?
I don't think so. She's
May
in New York.
10th, she's supposed to be back.
This is
Congratulations to Ronnie. 1st place. Trisha.
Hey.
This was on one of the field trips from last year. It was a thing at Luther Burbank Center called the Northern Lights, and they had a wire cage that was round, and you could walk through it like a tunnel, and it was all lit up. And I just started playing with motion blur.
Hmm.
So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, nice.
Congratulations. Creative Masters, 2 images, 2nd place. Mike.
Wow, Mike.
Thanks. I was surprised there wasn't more people entered in creative and masters. It seems like we have an awful lot of masters now. The bicycle parts were standing in front of a gallery in downtown Petaluma, and I photographed it and kept it in my galleries, and ended up using it. And the wall was a background in Petaluma, and if I remember correctly, I took the lady's picture at Rivertown Revival, which is a great place to go take photographs. So thank you.
Well done.
Very nice, Mike.
Congratulations.
Yep.
And 1st place. Mike again.
This is super creative.
Thanks. I was scrolling through Instagram and I came across a guy that did photographs similar to this, except he used dice. And he had his face in there and he was throwing dice, and he often had a cigarette. I looked for him tonight and I couldn't find him to tell you who he was, but I thought I'd try it and recreate it. And it took quite a few frames, but it was fun to play around with. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I love your grandson's hands on your fingers.
Yeah, no kidding.
They fit just right too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Really
But
fun.
the angle of the face and having it sort of off the frame, I thought was really imaginative.
Well,
You didn't, there's a lot of subtle things in here that I thought really worked.
thank you very much. It was fun to do.
Yeah, the
Nice.
loading is good too on the kids' feet and hands, shadow under the hands too, a little bit.
I'm sort of glad that, Mike, you were both these images, because I went back and forth in my head as to which one I would be, which one I thought was better than the others. They're nearly tied, so I don't feel so bad now.
Well, thanks very much. It was a fun learning experience with Photoshop also, and getting the sizes right and things. So
Yeah,
it's a good exercise.
yeah. Well done.
Journalism, intermediate, 3 images, 3rd place. Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, a very nice place. The tours are shut down right now, but if you ever get a chance to go there, it's beautiful.
Where is that?
Down near Ridgeway, do you know where that is? The China Lake Air Force Base?
No.
I didn't even know about it. I stumbled on it, and it's phenomenal. You just walk down this canyon, and everywhere you look, there's petroglyphs everywhere. So,
So colorful.
yeah. So if you ever get a chance, the tours are shut down, but look at Matarango Museum. And I even bought a book to get interpretation of all these different petroglyphs. It's absolutely amazing.
Oh, cool.
So where is that generically? I mean, where? in
It's
the world?
almost, it's kind of almost like if you go south and then on your way to Death Valley, there's
Okay.
there's a town called Ridgecrest, and the tours are set up through Matarango Museum. But like I said, they're shut down right now for some reason. I was just down there a month ago, and but my gosh, everywhere you look, it's just astounding. Incredible place.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place, Greg.
Mhm.
Yeah, this Douglas fir tree was in our backyard. And it was located 86 feet from our house.
Oh,
And we just watched this tree all winter long thinking, you know, and watching the news and all the trees that were coming down and hitting homes. That we may probably should take it down. And we debated about it for months and finally decided to do it. But it was actually fun to watch. I don't like cutting down trees because we lost a lot of them. But it was really fun to watch these guys. In fact, this guy that's with the chainsaw climbed up the tree at 8:15 in the morning, and he didn't come down for 3 hours. And he climbed all the way to the top, cutting all these branches off with a small chainsaw. Then when he got closer to the bottom, they roped up this big chainsaw, and he was cutting that trunk. And about halfway into the operation, when he was all the way up there, it started to rain.
Oh, no.
And it was on May 2nd, and I don't know if you recall, May 2nd, we had rain. And I got a couple of photos of him up there in the rain, and I thought, well, he's got to come down because it's going to be slippery. But no, he just waited it out for about 15 minutes, and then away he went with his operation. It was really fun to watch, and those guys are really pros.
Atlas, I'll call him.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good
Thank
job.
you.
First place, Ellen.
Yeah, I think this whole sequence is really about the last photo. Because this little boy was, you know, maybe about 18 months old, and he was out there following along. He was really in step with all the adults, doing a great job. At the end, he did break down into tears. But it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, he's adorable.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good job.
Journalism Advanced, 2 images, second place, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was really, really fun to visit with these penguins, and this poor guy, after he dropped that, everyone groaned who was watching him. It was so sad. But it was really interesting to hear about this breeding program and how they're maintaining this genetic diversity. I was really, really excited about it. And thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Congratulations. First place, Laura.
I think she's still traveling.
Yeah,
Good job.
nice.
Yeah.
That's a great one right there. Mhm.
Really had to track that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great motion in that. It's just right.
Journalism Masters, 3 images, third place, Tamara.
Not a surprise.
Yep.
Looks like her work. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's like the people going to Mecca, the people going to the holy city of this, just mobs of people and people just sleeping all over the place.
Wow.
Anyway, Congratulations to Tamara, second place. Anne.
All right.
Nice.
I think she's here tonight.
Haven't seen her.
Congratulations to Anne, first
Oh.
place. Bill.
Thank you. So a lot of kind of a story behind this image. I was sequenced for a different category, so I couldn't do a sequence. And there are 10 of these drummers, and they're all in different places at the same time and moving. And so but this one lady in the back right here that's just about to wail into that drum. It was so expressive. Her facial expressions were extremely expressive. And so I just kind of followed her around and took a lot of shots, close-ups of her, and probably 200 images. And this is the one I like best of that because it symbolizes it. The other thing I'll say on this is those iron pipes on the stage in the background. I struggled with those. Photoshop has a new feature for blurring the backgrounds called neural blur. And I have a version of this image that doesn't look, it looks pretty good with that. But then I decided that even though I could tone them down to a point where you didn't notice them, it didn't seem right for journalism. It seemed great for pictorial, and that's probably the image I like. But for journalism, I felt that I better just keep it realistic. And that's why I ended up choosing this image.
Yay, Bill.
Good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nature Intermediate, 2 images, second place. Greg.
So last year we had a couple of great horned owls on our neighbor's property, and I got to watch them a lot and observe their behavior. And one of the things I noticed is I could always find them because the other birds were blowing their cover, especially the acorn woodpeckers.
Yeah,
they would just gang up on them, and try to chase them away. And we have a couple of falcons too in the area, and they would dive bomb them. But one day I saw this big bird is like mid-afternoon fly into that area. And I thought, what is that? Because it just disappeared. But I walked over there and I looked and I looked and I looked and I finally found him. And there he was, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just basking in the sun. And I guess I was the only bird out there watching. Because none of the birds came around, and I mean, you could just squint your eyes a little bit and he disappears.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Very cool.
Nice.
Good capture.
Congratulations. First place. Mark.
All of you know I like bees, and especially wild bees. I will say I'm seeing less and less of them now, and it concerns me a little bit. I've been doing it for 10 years or so. I'm a little troubled by it because I just don't see as many as I used to. So there's pesticides concerns, things like that. And again, to the judge, everything you say is a nugget to me. I'm fairly new to the club, but I learn a lot from you every time you're here. So thank you so much. I really learned a lot tonight. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Glad you did. Glad you enjoyed it.
Not a lot. Thank you.
Well done, Mark. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Nature Advanced, 4 images, honorable mention. Laura.
That's an amazing shot.
It is.
You don't usually see them that dense.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
600 millimeters, so she wasn't exactly in the thick of it, but
Good thing.
Good thing.
White.
Because of that, she was able to portray it.
Right.
Wow.
Look at the surface of the water.
Mhm.
How much something is coming down from that flock.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
They
rain,
did
isn't it?
get spooked. So that's what happens when they get spooked. Yep.
Yep.
It's like an abstract art piece.
And no, you don't want to
Yeah.
be swimming in the water into that.
One thing I found interesting about this image is the upper left, just in from the corner a little bit, you can see one little patch of blue and you can see the head of one of the geese on there.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, with all that.
That's
Good
Waldo.
eye. I didn't notice that till you just mentioned that.
Yeah.
Over on the upper right too.
Yeah. that's
Oh,
right.
uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
Waldo the goose.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Look who,
Congratulations to Laura. Third place. Stephanie.
Oh my gosh.
Mm.
Wow.
I was wondering if this was a plecostomus, not a catfish, but it probably is a catfish because I don't see the mouth that indicates plecostomus.
Beautiful.
Fantastic image, yeah.
The fish is great.
Congratulations to Stephanie.
Look at
Second
the
place.
look at the depth of field she used on that. F3.2. Wow.
Mhm.
Second place. Cindy.
Oh, thank you. I took this in the Masa Mara last February, March when I was visiting, and it was an unsuccessful hunt for the lions, but we were just positioned right so that all the buffalo were just coming straight towards us.
Scary.
I like that with the grass and the one right there.
In the middle.
Talk about getting interrupted.
Yeah.
Can't even swallow.
Congratulations. First place.
Good job.
Cindy also.
Well, thanks again. We managed to come across a lion kill, and after the lions deserted it and all the jackals came in, and just watching all the different animals, the hyenas and such, and people don't stay around for that part, so we kind of had the whole place to ourselves, just watching all the different animals come in on the carcass. It was very interesting.
Yeah, vultures, awesome capture.
beautiful shot.
Mhm.
Congratulations. Nature Masters. 3 images. Third place. Gary.
Beautiful, Gary.
Excuse me, I had to unmute. Yeah, this was down coming home from like Indio area, and we took a roundabout way because this is a rare plant, and it only blooms when you have enough rainfall during the winter months to get the bulb wet, because the bulb is down about 2 to 3 feet. And I after I put that in, I wish I would have done a better explanation of why this is such a unique plant. And then I did wanted to make sure to add a little bit of background. I had another image I liked more, but the background gives that nature story a sense of place that I needed.
I think this would have been a lot more powerful in nature had you added that additional information. So that's a good point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations. Second place. Herb.
Great. Love the legs straight down there. That's pretty cool.
Congratulations to Herb.
Good job.
First
Herb.
place. Bill.
That great story.
Yeah, nice story, Bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best cormorant series I've seen.
This was taken from a pack raft, which gave me the advantage that he came toward me. Normally you get the butts of these birds when they take off.
Beautiful.
I thought you were one of them.
Where are you?
Nice. This is Spring Lake right here, close by.
In a pack raft. Interesting.
3 years ago, I got a picture of Bill in his little raft. I didn't know who he was. I wasn't even a member of the club. But
You know, Bill, any one of these 4 could have stand out as their own as well.
Great, thanks. Well, there's such
very nice.
Such an ungainly bird.
Yeah.
But then very graceful, especially when once they get in the air.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pictorial Intermediate, 4 images, honorable mention. Greg.
So the synchronicity, as I saw it in this image, was the coloration of the bridge and the falcon. And it just caught my attention. I thought, well, I need to snap this photo. But it didn't look like that car was painted to be the same color as the bridge. I mean, you can see on the tailgate, it's a little brighter than on the rest of the car. It was really faded in spots. And actually, so is the color of the bridge. The bridge is getting pretty faded too. So that's what I saw. And I'm glad that Charlie saw the synchronicity in the other cars too. That's a bonus. So thank you.
Driving?
Excuse me?
I said, were you driving?
Oh, absolutely not. But I had my iPhone handy and I took the shot.
Great.
Nice.
I saw the color, Greg, just to let you know. That was my interpretation.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations. 3rd place. Amy.
Oh, sweet. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just it just really struck me there was this rusty metal, I don't know what it was, just a wall sort of in the middle of this park, and just I spent like 15 minutes trying to catch this butterfly and get it in the right position, and balance it. So thank you.
Nice, congratulations.
Congratulations. 2nd place. Amy also.
Thank you. This just stumbled upon this. I was having dinner in North Beach, sitting outside at a Italian restaurant, and this bus pulled up. And it was there for like 15 minutes, just like music and partying, and they were trying to get this guy with the wine bag was trying to get everybody from the restaurant to come out and drink out of it. And after some prodding, a couple people did. It was like it was like a kegger basically in front of our table. It was a lot of fun.
Fun image. I really like it.
Thank you.
Fun.
Congratulations. 1st place. Sherry.
Oh, thank you very much. We had a field trip in Armstrong Redwoods, and the picture is from there, and I was imagining how fun it would be to bring my grandkids, so I brought them to the photo.
Did you add the bird?
I added the owl. He's a resident in my neighborhood, though,
Yeah,
so I
okay.
got a lot of pictures of him.
Yeah. Oh, fun.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was fun to do.
Good addition of the kids and the owl. I think it was well thought out.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Pictorial Advance, 7 images, honorable mention. Ronnie.
I love this image.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It really is. I've tried to do shots like that. I've never got one where the face is sharp enough.
Yeah, go down to Bodega Bay, and so many missed opportunities because you just couldn't get the camera out in time.
Yeah, right.
She nailed it. Congratulations to Ronnie.
Yeah.
Honorable mention. Ronnie again.
Oh. Wonder where that is.
I would guess a British seaside somewhere.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, she posted that on Facebook when she was on her trip. So yeah, I assume that it was one of those, one of the beaches there.
Yeah. Pretty fun image.
Congratulations to Ronnie.
I like the
Honorable
cloud.
mention. Stephanie.
Cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Stephanie. Another honorable mention, Cindy.
Well, thank you. I took this at an overnight hide in South Africa. And yeah, we just waited for the animals to come.
That is amazing. Enter that again.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. It's very cool.
Well,
I be there to see that.
Very nice.
Congratulations. Third place, Ed.
Oh, thank you. That little sliver of light on the left, on the right side, just started, and that was the gift.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was good timing. I was the first one there midweek.
Hope you get
Thank
good light on the next trip.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
That's
Second
awesome.
place,
Knowing that's cool.
Ed again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you. The tide pools, I love the tide pools in this place. There's so much variety. And thank you for the back on the on that reflection of the sky there. I
Did
was
you-
battling that, and
Did you have a circular polarizer?
I think I did. It just, but I play with it to just, I don't like heavily polarized, and I wanted to have some of the that surface reflection as well. So it was a fine balance, but
Yeah.
I can probably play with that with the new feature in Lightroom. Yeah, but thank you.
Congratulations.
Nice.
And for the hat trick, Ed again.
No way.
Woohoo.
I thank you very, very much. Yeah, I can't wait to see it again. Couple of weeks. My
Right.
birthday is on the summer solstice, so
Oh,
I'm going to be in Reykjavik on my birthday on the day before I'm driven out to the Highlands. So I'm hoping to get some special moments on the coast, on the water edge of Reykjavik. There are some pretty special places for this particular light. And but this is a beautiful place. The West Fjords, not to be missed if you want to go to Iceland. There's not as many tourists as down south. It's a good place.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Pictorial Masters, 4 images, honorable mention. Herb. Beautiful,
Wow.
soft pastel.
I love this image.
Gorgeous
Yeah.
colors.
yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't
He
he do
wrote-
it's a great.
black and white as well? Didn't we see this as a black and white?
Oh, might have. He likes to play with the color grading a lot, so I'm sure he did, some special work here.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Herb. Third place, Mike.
Thank you very much. I do a lot of sports photography, and I normally do blur out and darken the background more. I don't know why I didn't do it here, but your comments certainly well taken. It was a fun image to see pop up on the computer, because in the little viewfinder, I didn't see what I had.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
Yeah, expressions are
Yeah,
priceless.
they are. Each one of them has a great face.
Really,
Yeah,
they do. Very nice.
I posted
Yeah.
that on Facebook, and I think 3 mothers commented on their kids in this photo. So made a lot of happy parents.
Yeah. But if you take a look at a lot of the real successful sports images, having expressions and gestures are regardless of the sport, just really pull it off quite well, and you got it all here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what was the story with her?
She was a freshman. The freshmen were playing the seniors in this powder puff flag football tournament at Casa Grande High School.
Okay.
So she
Got
was
away with the ball.
Yeah, she was on her way to the goal.
Yeah.
These guys were getting pretty excited.
Yeah. Very nice, Mike.
Yeah.
Cool.
Congratulations. Second place, Steve.
Beautiful, Steve.
Lake Sonoma.
Very nice.
Spent an overnight up there fishing. I found out that the lake, people are up there fishing for crappie with tons and tons of Asians were up there fishing all night long, keeping me awake all night. So I had to depart, and I left early in the morning, half asleep, and I saw how foggy it was and so beautiful. So I took my boat and I just cruised all over part of the lake while the light was still good and took a couple of really nice images. So thanks. This is a rare moment up there. It's the best lighting that I've ever captured up there.
Nice catch.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Early mornings are special up there.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Congratulations. First place, Bill.
Yay.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Nice.
So I've been doing some wave photography lately. This is at Goat Rock Beach, which is a really unique location, turns out. And the talk by Tim Clifton inspired all these images. And yes, I did add the bird.
Got it from Ann?
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Bill.
Thank you.
And dun, da, 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 goes to Cindy.
All right.
Nice.
Wow, I'm shocked.
Great shot.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
nice.
an amazing capture.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everything.
Very good.
So if we have a few minutes, I'd like to make myself available for your for your comments, questions, or just disagreement. Now's your time to get me.
First, I have to say hello to Tamara.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Hi,
Hello.
Tara.
A lot of nuggets tonight. Thank you.
On the right. Is she here?
Yes.
Yeah.
By the way, the image behind me with this castle, unfortunately I didn't have time to resize the image so you can see the whole image, but there's water in the canyon down below and a bird up above. But this is an AI image done recently. I just did the last few days. I did a few fun images with some Adobe and that beta, and I was pretty surprised at how well it reproduced on top of the rock back there, this castle, and just matched it in so well to what was already there. It was pretty seamless. So I've been impressed with the lighting, the shadows, the water that was added in, the light reflection on the water and all. It was really like, if I had really spent the time to do this myself, there's no way I'd been able to do it anywhere near as well. It was pretty flawless. I was pretty surprised.
And the perspective, it matches perspective tremendous efficiently. Just all these different things, it just does it. It is amazing.
Yeah, there's a few things I've seen where, like I did one at Lake Sonoma where there was a UFO up in the sky, and I put pirate ship, and it came up with something that things that were so bizarre. I tried flying dinosaur. I tried dragons, and a lot of them came up very cartoon-like and not like what you'd see in a movie portrayal of a dragon that was just really cool looking.
Yeah.
Really cartoon-like.
I heard one explanation for that was there aren't a lot of high resolution images of dragons that it could learn from.
Yeah.
So the only images it had to learn from were more the cartoon types.
Yeah,
probably. So it tends to return those.
Yeah, probably the quantity of the images out there that they're sampling had more to do with children's stories and stuff. So it's making a combination of stuff. And if it maybe there might be a way to verbally give it a cue of the type of dragon, for example, to try and isolate it more.
Just yesterday, I was generating images of water polo matches, and I added 3 words to the beginning of my prompt: magical mystery creature. And what resulted was photorealistic splashing water and everything, water polo players all over, and a dragon going for the ball.
Right.
Wow.
Was it a cartoon looking dragon, or was it a more of like you'd see in the movie?
It was very sharp.
Cool. Right on. Good to know.
Yeah.
It is amazing stuff what it can do.
Thanks again for your work, Charlie, for your
Yeah, thanks, Charlie.
comments.
Yes, thank you very much, Charlie. You did a
Comment.
great job.
By the way, on the image that I did that had the the light at Lake Sonoma, I had added a filter to that to soften it up, because that hillside on the left side was just really kind of boring the way it was, and I decided just to give it a little more painterly look, and I added a little detail on the right hand side. So I just kind of went with what looked best, but fully realizing that no, it wasn't as sharp there. So I knew it when I got done. It's just like it just looked better, so I just went with it, knowing that it wasn't perfect. But if I made it realistic, it wouldn't have it just didn't look as good. So
yeah.
Judgment.
Maybe go in the other direction. Soften the right side a little bit.
I started with that soften, and I added
Okay.
some detail to it to make the trees and everything look better. It just, I like each other, but yeah, as a whole, it was, if you just sit there and critique the whole thing as a whole versus looking at around the image, it had a different effect. When I looked around the image, I loved it. When I looked at it as a whole, I didn't quite like it quite as well this way. So
yeah.
I don't know.
That's the advantage of never seeing it before. When I'm
Yeah.
seeing before, you end up seeing the whole, and that's that one difficulty of seeing some of this stuff in your own images.
Yeah. Well, and like some people say, well, it's a pictorial image, you can do what you want. Well, it's like, yeah, but
but
judge looking at it, and they're looking for defects in the image and stuff. So you got to know it's going to be seen in different eyes, and everybody's see it and appreciate it differently. So I don't take any of that personally. I just know I went through my process, and anybody else would maybe go through a different process.
And I wouldn't classify it as a defect as much as a discontinuity.
Yeah.
Because on the same plane, some was sharp and some wasn't, and that came out to me. So it's just a discontinuity that could got my attention.
Yep.
Steve, was the bird added?
That was added, yes. There was actually a hawk flying by, but it was blurry and it didn't look good at all. And I actually went there because there was a hawk in a tree to the left, but I didn't have a fast enough shutter speed because it wasn't exactly, it was pretty low light at that point. So I was like 125th of a second, I think. And there was just no way I was going to get a bird in flight. It was just not possible to do, not without going really high ISO. And I always look for a sharper image, and I'd rather do a sharper image and add a bird later if need be, just to get it, just because I really don't like something that turns out to be too soft and too much noise in it.
Well, you're really good at adding birds, so that was good.
It worked. The funny thing is there's a little topaz on the whole image, and I put a little topaz on the bird. And when I got done with it, I thought it's still a little bit too sharp. And I didn't have time. That was all done at the last minute on the night of the, night before the competition. So if I had it to redo again, which I probably will go back, I'll go back, edit the bird, add a little bit more in just to really make it perfectly match. And I might do a little play with that hillside a little bit, add maybe a little more detail in a few areas.
However, the softness of the bird was very consistent with the haze throughout the whole image.
It's pretty close, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you make him sharper, he may stand out a little bit more and not blend in as well.
Yeah, no, I was trying to make it.
Yeah.
The topaz I was putting on was actually softening and reducing detail slightly, which is why I did it on the whole image. But I mean, it showed a lot on that hillside, and it did show on the bird a little bit. But I just figured it looked like it was almost over sharp compared to the rest of the image, but it's slight,
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks. A lot of wonderful images tonight. Thank you guys very much. This freaking, I feel so blessed to be a part of this club. So much talent here. It's amazing. And a lot of people have grown massively in the short few years I've been here. It's just amazing to see.
I do find that people who participate fairly routinely in the competitions always do better towards the end. Their images always do better.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, this really does work by getting comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Great.
Cindy, congratulations on your big win, our one of our
Yes.
newer members.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
nice images you had.
Thanks.
Yes, great,
Yeah.
great shot.
Great work. I've been impressed with your work since day one. So good job.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm glad Ed got on tonight because he had a couple nice images there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally got on. I had a heck of a time getting onto the thing.
Yeah.
My computers do not like the website at all. They think something's wrong with it. So I finally got on. I'm happy I did.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have a good night, folks.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night,
All right,
everybody.
good night,
Thanks again,
everybody.
Charlie. Great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.